Welcome back. This is lecture 1B, and it should be the last of these that we do for the first day of class here. And make sure you're watching these in order. You should start with lecture 1, then you get lecture 1A, and this should be lecture 1B. So we just finished talking about objective theory. Now let's turn to talking about interpretive theory. Interpretive theory is different than objective theory insofar as objective theory, sorry about that, objective theory is interested in truth, capital T truth, whereas an interpretive approach is more interested in smaller t truths, right? We don't understand, in objective theory, we don't understand the world necessarily as a puzzle, right, to be put together and a truth to get to. But what we're instead interested in is smaller t truths, which what that means is alternative ways of understanding the world. We're talking about subjectivity here, right? Where we understand in interpretive theory that it's not like the truth is out there and the job of theory is to mirror the truth. But researchers have a certain degree of subjectivity, which means that what happens within, when a researcher works on theory, right, they put themselves into the theory as well. The world looks different depending on where it is that you're coming from your perspective. And interpretive theory understands that. So we said in objective theory what we're interested in doing is taking something complex and making it simple. In interpretive theory what we want to do is we're trying to make something simple complex. We're trying to muddy up the water. We're saying what happens if we look at this thing that looks easy to understand and we really try to pull out and tease out the complexities of it and understand the ways that it might look different. So there are multiple meanings within any phenomenon here. And the job of the interpretive approach is to try to tease out those meanings. This is often what we call qualitative as opposed to quantitative understanding. And the role of a researcher is very different, which we'll talk about right here. We talk about evaluating theory. We ask theory to do different things, and so objective theory and interpretive theory. So we have different criteria for explaining it and understanding the value of it. Now we're going to ask these questions of the theories that we talk about. If it's an objective theory, how do we tell if it's a good objective theory? Well, it should do 5 things for us, right? The first is it should explain the data, and that goes back to this sense of understanding the world as the way that it is. Does it actually explain the world the way that it is, right? Does it hold that mirror up? Does the explanation match the way that the world is? Because we're interested in cause and effect, objective theory should also be able to help us predict future events. We should be able to say, okay, look, right, we can tell this cause leads to this effect, so we can guess in other situations, right? We're looking to be able to generalize things, to look for truths across the board, not specific to certain locations. We want to know that what's true is true across everything. Is it relatively simple? Does it actually take something complicated and make it easier for us to understand? Does it have a hypothesis that can be tested? A hypothesis is a cause-effect statement. A hypothesis is at the core of objective theory. Because what we do with a hypothesis is a researcher makes a claim, right, about a cause-effect, and then you try to prove it or disprove it. And so it has to have a clear cause-effect statement at its core. And finally, does it have practical utility? Objective theory should be able to do something for us, right? Does it help you actually accomplish something? Because if it doesn't, there's not any value to it. Now you'll notice that's very different than what we're asking for in interpretive theory. What we're interested in interpretive theory is, rather than we're asking, does it explain the data, does it match up with the way the world really is? We're interested in saying, does it help us understand people in a different way? Is it a unique way to look at people? Instead of predicting future events, right, because what we're interested in future events is kind of that generalizable, right? What's true in this setting should be true in every other setting because it's a capital T truth. Well, we don't have generalizable type of claims in interpretive theory. And because of that, right, because it's so subjective and based on the researcher, we're asking for clarification of values. Rather than, what interpretive theory argues is that, okay, we're never going to be able to come at something in a generalizable way where we can put aside our biases. But what we can ask is, are the values of this theory clear up front? Does this theory tell us where it's coming from? Does it tell us what it's privileging? Since our bias is going to creep in and our bias is determined by our values, the way to be an ethical interpretive theorist is to be able to be upfront about what your values are and what's important to you. Does it have aesthetic appeal? What aesthetic appeal means is like the same kind of things you would ask of art. Is it creative? Is it beautiful? Is it interesting? We're not because if we're going back to this idea of relative simplicity, right? Instead of taking everything that's big and making it simple in interpretive theory, what we're doing is taking something simple and making it complex. And that's what art tries to do. And interpretive theory is much closer to art. You might want to think about it like the difference between, like if we're looking at the Eiffel Tower, a blueprint might be an objective way of looking at it, right? It's relatively simple, a set of cause-effect relationships. If you do this, this will hold the building up, etc. Whereas that's very different than an interpretive painting, right, that you would hang on your wall of the Eiffel Tower. Right? What we're going to want there is we're going to want interesting colors, ways of looking at it, something different. Since we don't have hypotheses that can be tested, what we ask for, does it have a community of agreement? And that doesn't mean that everyone has to agree with it, but what it means is it heuristic? Does it get people thinking? Does it get people engaging in different kind of ways? Does it get the ball rolling? Does it get discussion going? And finally, does it reform society? Rather than giving us something practical, where say we want to be able to take this and do this with it, what we're asking for in interpretive theory is, does it make the world a better place? Oh. Okay, so next lecture that we have, we're going to talk about the communication traditions, because we can break these categories down even further. Don't forget to ask any questions on the discussion board that you have about objective and interpretive theory, and I'll see you all tomorrow.